It's Borderline.
Sir.
Hi, everybody. You know, it is
Aloha.
amazing. Even though we just do this show once a week, I was just thinking today. I don't know if you ever have this thought, but it's amazing to me how fast this show comes up. It's once a week, but once
Yeah.
it drops on Thursday, all of a sudden, Thursday is we normally record on Tuesdays or Wednesdays,
Yep.
so we get a little bit busy. Drops on Thursday, and then all of a sudden,
It's time.
Friday's always a busy day work wise. Then the weekend's here, and then we get on the phone and what do you want to do?
Yeah, everyone's so funny about it. Like, well, how far out do you get your guests? And I'm like, a day?
Yeah,
I
it doesn't matter.
We've talked about a lot of people for a long
Yeah.
time, and it's just it kind of depends on what's going on and the tournament schedules, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But yeah, it's not like we've got them lined up for weeks out.
That's okay. We've got our own
I like
routine.
it. I like it this way. So
Well, one of the reasons why that I like to do it this way is because that way it stays relevant. That way we are like last week, we could bring on Noah Wooten. Noah is a huge sports fan, big college sports fan, big basketball fan. So we could do Final Four, have fun, and also talk some cornhole. So when if we were to book weeks out in advance, maybe sometimes we'd miss,
right,
on somebody. So
yeah,
we try to keep it somewhat relevant.
Yeah, we do our best to keep it relevant.
Speaking of basketball, real quick, my bracket is done, man. I mean, literally, I got a shredder over here for all my real estate stuff. In the shredder, they went, all three of them.
I thought about you because I'm going to be honest. I stopped watching that game. Wasn't Kansas up? They were up at some point in the second half, right?
Yeah, I think we got up. Maybe we were up. We were up 6 or 8. Yeah,
I think it was 8.
At halftime. I think we were up 8 at halftime.
Yeah, and it seemed like to me they were in control, but I was going back and forth because there were so many games on. And I was like, I'm not even worried about that game because I've got Kansas going a long way in my brackets too. I was like, they'll be fine. And then started watching something else with Julie. Went back to it. Actually, I went on my phone onto ESPN.com. Right there. I was like, no way. I was like, man, Jeff's got to be so boned.
Yeah,
can't win them all.
Tough to be like you and I talked on the phone this week. Tough to be, really truly bummed out about it, because we won it last year. So I'm happy about that. Won it in 2008, so at least we got a couple over the last 10 or 15 years. It's really hard. It's really hard to win. And then, like you and I talked about, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but imagine Clemson having to go and take on Alabama in a national, semifinal without Dabo Swinney,
right?
Or vice versa without Nick Saban on the sideline. I mean,
right.
Bill Self wasn't able to go. And I think so. I think maybe more so in the college ranks, even than in the NFL. Coaching matters. Coaching matters.
And you know what it is?
And these guys make constant adjustments on the sidelines that nobody sees. So without Bill Self, it was going to be tough. But that being said, we didn't play very good anyway.
And coaches like that instill confidence in their kids. The kids look to them and they feel better. It's not even about the X's and O's sometimes. It's not even about the adjustments. It's like, all right, Arkansas is making a run, timeout. They go in the huddle. They look at Bill Self. They feel calm. Even if he's screaming at them, they calm back down. They get refocused, and then they get that sense of belief again. You don't have that in the huddle. All of a sudden, that anxiety kind of starts to ratchet up, and then you take it with you back on the floor. And, you see it all the time when coaches have to take that little sabbatical. So that's a tough one.
So I'm bummed, obviously, that they lost, but man, how much fun has it been to watch? I mean, geez, just all the upsets and some of these teams that are playing so well, like Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah.
So much fun to watch the smallest team in college basketball and just firecrackers running around. I mean, we all just loved watching them play.
Yeah, it's one of the few sporting events that always delivers.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl might be a bad game from time to time. World Series, sometimes it's a 4-game sweep, yada, yada, yada. Pick and choose whatever sporting event you want. But the NCAA tournament, especially the first weekend, always delivers. Always.
So good. So good. I was just thinking of when you were talking is that, not to switch it to cornhole so quickly, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, these guys go back in the huddle and you have your teammates to rely on to pump you up. And you have your coaching staff, you have assistant coaches or your head coach to pump you up and give you that confidence. And I think that's another thing that makes sports like cornhole that it's just pretty much even in doubles,
Mm-hmm.
you're pretty much out there by yourself. But you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're out there on national TV playing cornhole in a singles event, there's nobody. There's nobody to talk to. There's nobody to consult. There's no coach. There's no teammates. It makes it so difficult. It is such a mental. I think that's why. I think that's because I played the only thing that I played at a high level when I was younger was tennis, and it was super hard for me
Yeah.
mentally. I was a much better doubles player than I was a singles player because I'm not sure I was tough enough mentally as a singles player. Because you are all alone out there. It's tough, and I was never on national TV. I can't imagine being on national TV and being alone.
That's why I feel so bad watching sometimes, and it's a singles match, right? And you're watching it, and someone's just having a bad game. And you
Yes.
see it, and you just want to go out and give them a hug and say, it's okay. But you can see it spiraling downhill,
Yeah.
right? And you can just see it in their face, and you know what's going on in their head. And it's just like, oh man, can you just? It's okay. Just deep breath,
Yeah.
relax, and you watch it because there is no one else. There is no teammate that you can defer to. There is
Yeah.
no coach you can go to that can draw up something to kind of get things going again. I mean, you're out there on your own, and when it starts going south, it is brutal. And that's what makes the greats great in our sport, just like any other sport. The ones that,
Agree.
hey, I
Yep.
had 2 bad rounds, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
This round starts anew. And
Like
those
like even
types
in
of people.
golf, even in golf, you've got your caddy, right? I mean, Jordan Spieth probably relies on the confidence and teamwork with his
Mm-hmm.
caddy more than anybody.
Yeah.
But so at least you have a caddy. In cornhole, you're truly on an island. I mean,
Yeah. And it's tough. I
it
mean,
is tough.
and even in doubles, it's almost as if when you're playing bad, it's almost even worse because now you're letting someone else down besides yourself.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
yeah, I give him credit, man. I mean, that's brutal to be out there, especially when and you've played, even if you played anything, any type of game recreationally, you can tell when it's not there, right? You can tell, like, man,
Feel it. Yeah.
we're terrible golfers, right? We go out there and there's some days like, hey, I'm hitting it pretty well for me, right? And then there's other days you're like, man, I'm lucky if one of these balls gets in the air today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you just know it. And
Yeah.
I like when those guys go and girls go through that in cornhole, like the ones that can fight through it. It's so cool to me to watch because how do you do that? How do you mentally calm yourself down, knowing that you don't have your A game, knowing
Right.
it's not there, but you find a way to battle? That's what I love about it.
Well, we've got a great guest today. And before we get to him, it's so great to hear from people who listen to the show. If you ever want to hit us up seriously with a question on Facebook, we don't do much with our Facebook page, but reach out to Bernie or reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. Just DM
Yeah.
us or whatever if you have any questions because I don't think he'll mind me mentioning his name. But we've spent a lot of time here on the show talking about Trey. What was it about? I think it was just before the start of last year. I think is when we really started talking about all-time career leaders in wins.
Right.
Because I remember my first year or two on the air with Trey, when they would mention a certain player as the all-time winningest player, me and David Harris, our producer from ESPN, and Tom Cavanaugh, the guys behind the scenes, we'd be like, okay, is there any way we can quantify that? Like, what does that mean when you say that Matt Guy is the all-time winningest player? Or Jamie Graham is, or whoever. What does that mean? So Trey, before the start of last year, put together, they figured out what would qualify as a career win, the shootouts and the nationals and whatnot. So that's how we came up with this list. It's an awesome list. But as you and I have been talking about, the sport has kind of changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we categorize these wins? And so, you and I have talked about this a lot because is it fair to put Matt Guy at number one when the kids nowadays have many more opportunities than some of the older players ever had? So that's kind of been our discussion. But
Yeah.
so Cody Schaefer reached out to us on Facebook. Great message. And he said, hey, Jeff, I'm an ACL director and aspiring ACL pro. Was listening to BoarderLine, and my opinion on the ACL titles is that they should take a page from golf and separate the titles. Opens and pro shootouts should be regular season wins, but then
Mm-hmm.
nationals and world champions could be considered major wins. So you take Matt Guy, for example, he would have 18 career wins, but 11-time major winner. He said, if I have those numbers correct, which I think he does. He said, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that system. So Cody, thank you so much for reaching out on Facebook. And I love that idea. And Bernie, I think you've actually touched on that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think what we should do is separate, like opens, for example, is, all right, let's use the golf analogy, right? So you have your majors, you've got the Masters, US Open, British Open, and PGA Championships. Those are the big four. And then we have our World Championships. So that's 5 that stand alone, right? Completely another level of competition. I think the shootouts are an even, like, because there's only 8 and then you have your championships and it's worth a lot of money. I think it's different than an open. I think there's nothing wrong with winning opens. I'm not bashing opens. Everyone thinks I bash opens. I'm not. It just, to me, as a personality with the ACL and watching how people perform, it's just not the same level. It's not this. You can tell when the truly elite of the sport bear down, and sometimes they do that in opens and they win. But then you see some of these folks that are like open warriors, right? They just crush it in opens. They max out their points. And then they get to nationals and, they barely make it halfway through their bracket before they're ousted. It's just a different level of competition. And the shootouts is different because, it's round limited. I was trying to think of a golf analogy. There's a certain number of tournaments that kind of stand above the regular tournaments, right? The Players Championship, for example, is considered another level, even though it's not a major. It's
like the 5th major is what
the Memorial, for example, Jack's tournament is considered a higher level. You have more of the world's top 20 playing than just say, the Milwaukee Open or whatever. It's not a knock on those opens. It's a different level of competition. Right. And so I think you have the opens, and I think you have the shootouts, and then I think you have the nationals and the world championships that, in that way. But golf still does it. I mean, when you look at total wins, it includes all of it. Tiger's tied with, is it Sam Snead? We were talking about this earlier. I can't remember.
Sam Snead, 82, I think is what it is.
82. They're tied for total number of wins. But then you look at majors and Jack Nicklaus at 18. And we were talking about it. I mean, 19 times he finished second. 118. That is crazy. Top 3, like 36 times. I mean, that dude could have unreal.
19 times finishing second. That's just incredible.
So I mean, think about that. You win 18, a shot here and there, he could have 30 plus majors.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I know, right? A putt here or there. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say that about his wins too. So I guess it kind of cancels out. But man, that's insane.
Yeah. So how would you? We've only got a couple minutes here before our guest, but so how would you divide it then? Would you include the shootouts then with the? Because I'm not sure we could have 3 categories. I think that would get too confusing, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think
maybe call it something different. Maybe
I think that you have to classify the nationals on their own level. Obviously you have total wins, which is great. I mean, but the nationals and the world championships have to be considered another level higher. And it's not a knock on the opens. It's not. But see, shootout championships, I mean, you're winning a lot of money if you win the shootout championship. That has to be considered the 6th major, if you will. Maybe that's our version of the Players Championship, right?
Yeah, because it adds a whole other level of pressure.
Yeah, and it's a whole nother level of money.
Yeah.
And that's something the pros kind of forget about. There's a lot of money in that, and they kind of, some of them, not all of them, but some of them kind of overlook. That's round limited, doesn't matter. It's like, I don't know, man. It's a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money to be won, so it matters. But yeah, the opens are great. And then, I mean, look, it does have a lot of parallels with golf because certain opens are different than others. I mean, you look at the one in Winter Haven where you had so many of the world's best players there. And then you have other opens where you might get half of that number at that open. And so it's different. It carries different weight. I think the players know that, though.
Yeah.
But as far as how you quantify number of wins and the importance of them, yeah. I mean, I've always, like we've discussed, I've always thought there has to be some sort of asterisk between the players that competed before the Open era and the players that competed after the beginning of the Open era.
Yeah. Yeah, the Open era. I like that. I like the way that sounds. I might actually talk to Trey about when we're talking about all-time, career titles. Maybe we'll kind of start to maybe skew it a little bit the way that Cody was saying.
I think we have to.
Yes, he's number one. I mean, like for example, Matt and Jamie tied for all-time career titles, but then let's also talk about our major winners. Who's number one on that list.
I think you have to because
I think that's relevant. I think
it's a different level of competition completely.
Yeah. Yep. All right, you ready for our guest?
Absolutely.
Again, Bernie and I were talking this week, and we're like, who have we talked to? We got to get this guy. As soon as you mentioned him, I'm like, yes, for sure. So again, there's so many terrific players in this sport, and appreciate, that's something I've talked about on this podcast before, is that in college football, when I'm broadcasting college football, college basketball, you just don't have the access to players. You just don't. And even the coaches, we'll do a conference call maybe during the week if they have time, but for us to be able to call up Noah like we did, or Trevor Brooks like we did, or Yeti like we did, to be able to get Cheyenne on, top female player in the world, and to be able to call the guest we're having on today, to have this access to our players is I hope that never goes away, because I love being able to just call these people and get them on the show and get their thoughts on it. So again, one of our favorites in the game. I believe almost a 15-year veteran of the sport of cornhole. So he's been playing a long time. He is currently the defending seniors world champion. But for those who don't know, he is, I would say, Bernie, he's still considered, right, the top air mailer in the game.
If he's not the top, he's one of the top 2 or 3.
Right? Yeah, and for those who didn't see it, I didn't see it, unfortunately, but he had a memorable match a few years ago, hitting 21 of 22 airmails. I think he hit 15 straight. He used to practice them by putting his grandkids across the board when they're little and shooting them over the grandkids and hitting the airmails. But I'm telling you, he is remarkable to watch practice. We were in Mesa, in Scottsdale, I was watching him warm up for the pro shootout. Just airmail. How do you do this? Incredible. Yeah. But anyway, so happy to welcome to the show again, one of the great guys in this sport. Please welcome to BoarderLine for the first time, Jimmy McGuffin. What's up, Jimmy?
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we got you all hooked up. You look good. The sun is gone from behind you, so we can actually see you now. This is good. So, hey, thanks so much for coming on. So you're actually you're a Kentucky guy, but it sounds like you might be transitioning to warmer temperatures.
Yeah, I like this pretty well down here in Florida. Pretty nice. It's only like 82 right now here.
Yeah. You don't have that snow and that cold in the winter like you do in Kentucky?
No. It's been cold at home, and that's why I've stayed here.
Well, it's funny, Bernie, because Jimmy told me earlier on the phone when we were trying to get everything connected. I think you got this right, Jimmy. Didn't you say after the event in Myrtle Beach, you guys went down to Florida and just stayed?
I've been here ever since. And I don't know when I'm planning on going home. Maybe when it's around 80 degrees at home.
See you next summer, Kentucky.
I've had family members who've lived down there, and after a while, you'll probably have a hankering to get back up north to the little bit cooler temperatures. All right, Jimmy. So we were just talking about this. Let's get your thoughts on this before we move on. So and you might have been able to hear what we were talking about. Trey did a terrific job just before the start of last year, put together this all-time career wins list. And I'm sure you've heard us talk about it on the broadcast.
Yes, sir.
And right now, Matt Guy and Jamie are tied for 18 career titles. However, we had a listener of the show who's also an ACL director bring up the point that maybe we should separate all-time career titles from major winners, national winners, and make that kind of its own category like they do in golf. I mean, Bernie and I think it kind of makes sense. So that would really kind of separate what Matt Guy has done. What are your thoughts on the all-time career titles?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, just for instance, Damon Dennis, you count up his titles that he has over everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's one of the top. He's got a lot of wins under his belt.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like to Bernie's point, don't you feel like the Nationals are a bigger deal and much harder to win? I mean, because this is a great question for you, because you've already won twice on the Open Tour, on the Senior Open Tour this year. But I mean, wouldn't you even say it's a bigger deal and harder to do on the national level?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the opens are pretty tough. I mean, there's a lot of new talent and stuff coming up, but you get every pro together, and it's pretty tough to come out on top.
And the TV factor, right?
Yes, sir.
So do you give Damon Dennis some grief now, because now that you're starting to beat him on the senior So we, in our tour, for those at home that don't know, we do have a senior division, and Jimmy has kind of taken over. Well, he took over the spotlight from Damon Dennis last year in the senior division. So, and being both Kentucky guys, do you rib him a little bit? Do you say, new sheriff in town?
No, I mean, he is older than I am, No, it's hey, I just got to keep throwing and take it while I can, because it's not going to last long. He's going to be back. Switching bags, we both switched bags this season, and it takes a little bit to get used to them bags. It's different.
Yeah, it's been strange seeing Damon Dennis throw with different bags.
Yeah.
How's the change? So you're an ultra guy now. So how's the switch gone?
I like it. I mean, I found I like the Vipers. I mean, the Vipers are my favorite bag, but I like the bag. They're pretty nice.
What? All right. So we were talking about it before we brought you on, and obviously your claim to fame is being you're one of, if not the greatest airmail thrower of all time. What point were you playing cornhole and you were like, you know what? The heck with sliding it up the board. The board's just getting in the way. I'm just going to throw it in the hole. Like, how did that manifest itself with you? Because, I mean, I've watched you play a number of times, and if you don't feel right about your slide or whatever, you just throw airmails, and you throw them at a high rate. I mean, how did that come about?
Mainly, like at home, the humidity. We're playing outside a lot, so it gets sticky, and my bag just don't slide very good. So I had to go to airmails, and I thought I might as well just keep practicing them. I figured if I could hit that hole, I could actually put that bag anywhere on the board I wanted to. So I just started practicing airmails, and I was practicing in a bar one night, and these guys was watching, and I never had been there. And the night I went, one guy, the second time I went there, he'd come over and talk to me. He said, "Yeah, last week we was watching you." He said, "We're like, what's this guy doing? Throwing all them airmen. What's he doing?" And he said, after that first night, he said, I told the rest of them, he said, I figured out what he's doing. And they said, "What's that?" And he said, "He's going to start taking all of our money." But I practiced more airmails than I ever practiced anything. So now I'm trying to practice sliding.
So for people out there who want to learn how to airmail, because you and I were talking earlier today, Jimmy, when people turn on the TV, they want to see greatness. And when they see you hit 10 airmails in a row or 21 out of 22 airmails, they can't do that at home. So how do you practice that? How do you recommend people practice it? Like, I mean, do you just literally throw hundreds of bags a day?
Have grandkids.
Yeah, right.
No. Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm telling you, Jeff and Bernie, I know the first 4 years that I started playing, I played every day. If I didn't go somewhere and play, I threw it home every day for the first 4 years. I never missed a day.
Wow.
And it might have been 5 years, but I know 4 years. I played every single day. I threw bags every single day. And I would try to throw at least 400.
Wow, 400 bags a day. Okay. Do you feel like, I mean, while we're talking about this subject with airmail, I mean, have you felt any pressure at all to change your game because the game has evolved so rapidly with so many younger players, and just the accuracy of the blocks? I mean, you and I talked about this earlier. I mean, just block after block, the roll shots, the cut shots. I mean, does that affect you at all, or is the airmail game just safe from all that?
Well, I started trying to change. Start sliding more, try to play a little smarter, but that wasn't working for me. So I went back to airmailing.
I don't think people give you enough credit, because a couple years ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you had a huge issue with your sciatic nerve. And anyone that's ever had an issue with that will tell you it's one of the most painful and debilitating things that you can have, that people just can't see it. I mean, You're limping around, you're in a lot of pain, we're on concrete floors for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and you're out there trying to compete while the game is changing, while all these kids are coming up with all these new shots, you're just trying to feel good. So the fact that you've come back after your surgery, you found yourself back to the top of the game. I mean, like, do you ever look in the mirror and say, man, that's pretty tough of me. I'm glad I was able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready to quit. I mean, I couldn't, it was hurting. I couldn't do it no more. And I mean, we went to Erie, Pennsylvania that day, and me and Greg played in the doubles, and I finished the doubles that day. And I went back to the room, and they didn't have a tub to soak in or nothing. So I got in the shower and laid in the floor of the shower for 2 hours, just letting hot water hit me in the back. And it seemed to help, but I wasn't even able to play the next day in singles. I couldn't.
I remember.
So what kept you going then? I mean, how were you able to keep your career going?
I tried to battle out to the end of the season and then have that surgery. I didn't want to quit in the middle of the season. I wanted to finish. And I don't like to take medicine, so I don't take any pain pills or nothing like that. I just tried to tough it out.
Well, you can always give them to me if necessary.
I used a lot of BioVerdes, and I should have bought stock in that.
So how painful was, so how did you know, because I have someone very close to me that's going through the same thing with a disc issue. So did they just do a discectomy, take it right off the nerve, and then you felt better? Is that pretty much how that whole thing went? Or did you have a period of time, to kind of get your strength back after the surgery?
He didn't want me to do anything for 2 months, nothing. I mean, he didn't want me to do nothing, just let it heal. And I done what he said because I didn't want to go through it again. So he took some bone out and some tissue or something that was pressing on that nerve. And evidently he done a good job. Knock on wood.
That just sounds painful. Better. Yeah. So glad that you're feeling better. Obviously, it's made a difference in your game because all of a sudden now you are killing it again. So congrats on a great start to the year. All right, one more cornhole thing for you. Then I want to move on to kind of you and your history. And I know your dad was a big influence on you, and that's a great story as well. All right, let's just put this to bed real quick. So with the new kids and the new game, I mean, we talk about this a lot on the show. You and I talked about this earlier today. You've heard my take about I think we need to be careful on the direction of the game. I know there's not much we can do about it, but I'm just saying I just think we need to be careful. What are your thoughts on this new style of play with the more of the block game?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but then again, I'm one of those that like to block. I mean, and I'm probably going to continue to block an airmail. It's just, I've always done that, and it's going to be hard to change. I can't slide as many bags in the hole as other people. I don't know. I get bored with it. I got to block an airmail.
That's so funny, Jimmy. Yeah. That's what Bernie, how many players have said that exact word? Bored. I get bored with it.
When it goes into them long rounds, I mean, them long games, you kind of, I don't know, you kind of start losing focus. You look around.
Because see, that's so funny. Because it's so funny because Jeff's right. The average sports fan, right? They're flipping through the channels. They hit up ESPN. We're on there. They see, and Jeff's right, even though I hate it, but he's absolutely right on this. They see a person throw 24 bags straight. They go crazy. They can't believe it because they can't do that at home.
Yeah.
If they see a person shoot an airmail or a roll shot that doesn't work, because it looks bad on television when it doesn't work. I mean, an airmail that's off the back, the person at home's going, well, hell, I can do that. I mean, that's, what's so hard about that? Or they see a roll that kicks too far to the left and goes off the board. They're like, I mean, that's a profession. Like, they don't get exactly what's happening. But every single professional, every other analyst, remember Anthony Ione, Jeff, when we had him on, he's like, I'm going to sleep if I watch that.
Absolutely.
If it's 20, if both players throw 20 straight, I'm asleep. And it's so funny because the players get bored. Even some of the analysts get bored watching the slide game, but the average sports fan loves it. Absolutely loves it. Jeff loves it.
Absolutely get giddy.
I'm sorry, you're not going to see me slide that many.
Yeah, but if you throw 20 airmails in a row, that's insane.
Well,
that's a whole nother level.
I'm going back to the way I threw before.
Good. I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I loved watching you warm up down in Arizona. I mean, you were hammering in airmails. I mean, I don't even know how many you hit in a row. And actually, that's a great example, Jimmy, because I'm sure you felt this, even though it was warm ups. You know, it was that crazy night down in Scottsdale. You were there early. You're warming up on the boards. You are flying in airmails. And what happened? You get people surrounding the court watching you because nobody can do that. They can't do what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of people coming up. Why do you even try to put it on the board? Why do you throw at the board? I don't know.
It's an absolute fact.
Out down there.
It's an absolute fact because I was off to the side, kind of watching, and then the way it was set up there, it was a cocktail party.
Yeah,
a very nice big cocktail party. All of a sudden, Jimmy's practicing. He's throwing airmails, and you can just see the people start to come over, and you can just watch them kind of drift over and watch because it's insane. I mean, it's truly insane. I mean, you've got professional athletes watching you do that, and they're in awe of that. Now, think about that. Someone that spent their whole life being good at another sport, being completely in awe, watching you guys do that. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome to watch how all that took shape.
Yeah, Jock and Justin Turner, Jock Peterson and Justin Turner, they loved it. They was watching. When we was back in that room, we was practicing that way, and Jock, he couldn't get over how I was hitting airmails.
Yeah. I mean, it just feeds into the point that I've made all the time. I mean, when they watch you guys play, whether it's on TV or in person, they want to see greatness. And that's truly greatness, Jimmy. I mean, nobody else can do that. I mean, you have very few, a handful of people in the world from 27 feet away who can do that at that consistency. It's amazing to watch.
I just wore myself out there. I played too much before.
Well, we didn't go on the air until like 10:30 local time. I mean, that's that. I mean, for all of us people who live on the East Coast, we're talking. I think it was a 2-hour difference that time of year. It was 12:30. 12:30 a.m. So yeah, you were there pretty early practicing. You're right.
We was the last game, so it was like 11:30.
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, you guys were last. Yep.
And we had to be there at 8 o'clock that morning to do interviews.
Yeah, it's a long day for you guys.
Long day.
So give me your thoughts overall real quick as we kind of transition on the sport of the game. Again, I think you're close to a 15-year veteran.
Yes,
at what point did you start to feel this huge momentum take off for cornhole? I mean, was it during COVID? Was it before? Like when did you finally, say to yourself, "Wow, this I can't believe what's happening here"?
COVID was the big time. Yeah. During COVID we played a lot of games on ESPN, and I know that helped it take off big time, but it's the biggest time was probably during COVID.
You had a couple big performances in Arizona.
Yeah.
You weren't going to say 2018, 2019 Arizona when you drug Josh Lunsford to a doubles national championship?
Hey, Josh Lunsford did really good that day. Yeah.
Shout out, Josh.
See, that was the thing that goes back to home. They took us outside, and I'm thinking it's getting dark. When it gets dark at home, the boards get sticky, and I'm like, Josh, it's going to happen. He said, you do what you do. So that's why I decided to throw all airmails there.
Yeah,
and now there's times that I'm playing, and I'll throw a bag, and I look over at Trey, and I'll try to slide around or something. I look over at Trey, and he's going, airmail.
Do what you do. Do what you do.
I'm going
and
back.
It sounds like. Yeah, it sounds like you're going to be doing that more. All right, let's transition here, Jimmy, to your really kind of more of your life. I swear one of these days I'm going to start a podcast, whether it's with Bernie or I don't know, Bernie's probably sick of me. I just want to start. I came up with a really cool name for this podcast, calling it 50-50, because I recently turned 50. Well, not so recently, but I'm going to say recently.
Me too.
But just things that we've learned throughout our life. I just think it's fascinating, and I would love to, because things that I know now, if I had just known them 15, 20 years ago, would have really helped. So I think it'd be really fun to put together some sort of old man podcast, where you kind of look back and talk about what you've learned. But I'd love to hear your story, because your family and really your dad was such a significant influence on you. And I don't think people realize that you worked. Your dad passed away, I think, about a year and a half ago. But you worked alongside your dad and with your dad, I think, your whole life. So, I mean, what did you learn from your dad, and what did he teach you to become the man and the athlete and the competitor that you are?
My dad taught us everything. He owned his own painting and sandblasting company, and that's what I've done for. I've been painting since I was 15 years old, so I've been painting 40 years. It wasn't just painting. If he thought we could do floors, he would bid on the floor. If he thought we could do ceilings, he'd bid on the ceilings. And if we didn't know how to do it, he'd have somebody there to show us how the first time. And after that, we knew how. We done everything. He taught us to do everything. And yeah, he's really missed.
So was it work ethic? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, work ethic. Yeah.
Well, he's got to be missed, because for those in the cornhole community, they're used to it, but for those at home don't know this, the MacGuffins run deep at a tournament. There's 15. There's a caravan of MacGuffins going up and down throughout the arenas. It's awesome to watch, because that's pretty cool to have that tight knit a group.
If you go back and watch the Arizona clip of me and Josh, you'll hear somebody whistle real loud, and you'll hear them go, woo! The first game, it was every time me and Josh threw. The last game, they'd had too much to drink, and it was every bag that went in the hole. But that was my mom and dad. You can hear your bag that goes in the hole. That was the first tournament they ever went to. They ever went the big tournament, and they loved it. After that, they go to my mom. She goes to all of them. If she can go, she's going, and she's going to the one in Texas. And so,
what I'm interested to know, what, like, when you and your dad would be working, would you ever have conversations, or was it just enough just to be together in the room?
It was kind of hard working for Dad. No, Dad didn't really work with us a lot. Me and my brother worked together every day. My dad was kind of, when we come along, I worked with him the first several years, me and him, and then my brother come along, and then my uncle joined in, and my dad was kind of the boss, and he never come around unless it was quitting time, and he wanted you to work longer. So it was you had to work. When I was 15, we was milking cows. We had 80,000 pounds of tobacco, plus I worked for him in the summertime.
Whoa! What'd you say?
We milked cows. We raised 80,000 pounds of tobacco, and then I worked for him too in the painting company.
How do you raise 80,000 pounds of tobacco?
My mom, my wife, and my sister-in-law, after we got set, they took care of it through the summer, keeping the weeds out and fertilizing it and everything. They'd done a lot of that, and then we done cutting and housing it and stripping it. And Dad got the money. That's how we paid our farms off when we bought them. So
life has changed a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad there's no more tobacco.
So I'm surprised the bags don't stick to your hands after dealing with that much tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We had 22, 23 acres of tobacco.
Would you change anything though, Jimmy? Because I was just recently, I've had a couple of conversations with Kathy, and we talk about growing up in the 80s, and things were different, and not to be the old man, get off my lawn guy, but I really, looking back on it, because we have kids, we have 5 kids, and to see what they go through and what their life is like, and what social media has done to them, and always on your devices, and constantly have to be entertained. I'd love to be younger, but I wouldn't change a thing. I loved when I grew up. I loved that there were no cell phones. I loved that my brother and I could get on our bike and we'd take off, and my mom would say, "Be back for dinner."
That's how it was at our house. I mean, we lived about maybe 3/4 of a mile from Salt River, and I'd walk down there and go fishing. I mean, we walked everywhere. You didn't have to worry about nothing. I wish these phones never came along. All this new technology. That's what's wrong with this world today.
I agree 100%. Matter of fact, that was another rant that I had. When was that one, Bernie?
That was last week, wasn't it? No, or was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. If it were up to me, if it weren't for work, Jimmy, I would throw that thing in the river and never see it again.
That's
I would
me.
I'll keep my computer and email if someone needs me, but I don't need the phone.
Yep.
I don't need Facebook. I don't need Instagram. I do kind of like Twitter for news, but I miss maps. I used to
Right?
to love looking at maps.
Yeah. We used to be riding along and have that big atlas in the car, and Marcy go, we was both right
Yeah.
Yes.
The best part of the maps was trying to put them back together once you had them all the way out.
Yeah.
Right,
They never folded up the same.
Literally, though, I mean, this is crazy for the kids to think about, because we
they
literally
don't even know what we're talking about.
No, my
Map?
parents literally would have a map on the table before we drove to Niagara Falls just to see what was the best way to go.
Exactly. I remember that.
Yeah. So let's go back to your dad real quick, then we'll move on. Do you remember any specific conversations of things that you learned from him, like conversations that you had? Because Kathy, her dad was a forward observer in World War II, right? And I mean, that basically was scouting back then, right? Because they didn't have drones and all the fancy stuff they have now. They literally had to send men to run across enemy lines to try and figure out what the hell they were doing and bring that information back, right? And she always wished that she could have recorded conversations with him, of just some of those moments. But do you remember some moments of things that your dad has told you, like wisdom that he shared with you before he passed?
No, I don't really remember none of that stuff.
See, Jeff grew up in the Midwest. He's not used to the kind of Southern male rearing that we have, where it's speak when spoken to, and that's about it.
Yeah, get over there and get busy. That's what we got to get this done.
No, the reason, honestly, Bernie, I mean that's funny, but the reason I ask is because I love my dad. I have a great relationship with my dad, but I can't remember ever a time really. I mean, like my mom, anytime there was a significant conversation that needed to be had about really awkward stuff when it came to sex or girls or whatever, I don't really remember having any conversations like that with my dad.
Me neither.
I mean, he'd wake me up and he'd give me a piece of toast and a glass of juice, and away I'd go. I mean, that was about it. And then he worked his ass off, and we appreciated that. I mean, he'd come home at 6. He rode the bus. I'd be there at the bus stop to meet him. We'd walk back home. We'd maybe shoot some baskets in the driveway. We'd eat, and he'd go back to work. I mean, he worked his ass off to support us.
My dad done a lot of traveling when I was young. He worked on the Gulf of Mexico on oil rigs, and he'd go to Indianapolis and work in the big factories up there. And he was driving from Indianapolis home, which is probably 3 hours. He would drive back and forth until one night he fell asleep coming home, and he decided he better start staying there. But how can you drive 6 hours a day, work 10 or 12 hours a day, drive 6, you ain't getting no sleep?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. I think our generation was the last generation to actually grow up like that. And I think our generation, even though I didn't have kids, but Jeff, you guys can speak to this. I mean, I think our generation wanted to be more involved in our children's lives, because up to that point, children were kind of, I mean, I think our parents loved us, but it was like, you do, here's what you do. If you've got any questions, ask me, but you do you, because I've got to do all this other stuff.
I agree with you.
Is there any chance that our parents were horrible parents?
Probably.
They just let us go all day.
No, they've done a good job with us. They've done a good job with us.
I mean, I think it's better to learn lessons on your own, though, don't you? Because like for me, if someone tells me something, that doesn't do anything for me.
No, you're right.
It goes one ear out the other. I kind of have to experience. I'm a tactile learner. I got to feel that experience myself, and I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah,
I felt a few experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, Bernie, I think you're totally right on that. All right, Jimmy, as we wrap things up, let's preview the 2023 season. So we are on the cusp of our very first national coming up in Corpus Christi, and it's later than normal. I feel like it's been forever since we've been able to watch you guys compete at the literally at the national level. So what are your things to watch? Like we talked about, the game has evolved so much. I don't know what we're going to see this year. I actually had a really interesting conversation with Jackson Gore, and he said he's been scouting himself. He's been watching tape all from the last year, and he said, you know what? I need to put more bags in the hole. And here's a younger player that's saying that. I don't know what we're going to see this year. What are you expecting out of this year?
I don't know. I just hope you see more of me and Damon.
Something tells me
you're going to see more of me and Damon. We make a good team.
Absolutely.
Has Damon felt any pressure to change his game at all?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just been concentrating on, getting the feel of these new bags and getting, doing a lot of practicing with these new bags. But I think he's found it. We kind of have a little difference in the bag there. I think he likes the Psychos and I like the Vipers, but I can throw them and he can throw mine. So we'll do all right.
By the way, Damon Dennis, we had a show, a few months back about trash talk and certain players that talk a little bit. Damon Dennis should actually go down as one of the great trash talkers of all time, but he does it in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
Tells you how great you are while he's sticking it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, man, you're so good. Sorry about another 4-bagger on you. Man, you're throwing great. There's
great
2 more
player.
points for me. Yeah, God, I love it.
Is that distracting? Is that distracting? Does that play with your head at all, Jimmy?
I try not to listen to him. I try to. Hey, it's like toning Trey out over there. You just kind of block it.
Yeah. Bernie, you are so right, though. For those who don't know, when you play against Damon Dennis, it's constantly, oh, great shot. Great shot.
Man, you are so good. I can't even believe it. Yeah.
How am I going to win today? You are.
And he beats you 24-0.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. All right, one last thing before we wrap things up. I got about a minute left. Give me your thoughts on teams. Again, that's going to be your first in Corpus Christi. We're actually going to have 2 nationally televised teams broadcast. You are not on the Kentucky team. At least last I knew, there's been so many trades. I don't think you are. I think you're on the Chicagoland team. So you're actually going to be having kind of a rivalry matchup if and when you guys play the Kentucky team. What are your thoughts on teams?
Hey, Kentucky's going down.
Here we go, trash talking already.
I'm interested. I mean, this is going to be interesting. I think I'm glad I'm not a captain this time. I was a captain last year, and I'd rather play than be that captain.
Well, aren't you pretty upset at your Kentucky captains for not picking you?
Oh, sure. No, I understand. I know how it is. I know how it is when, last year I let my partner go 1 round, and I thought I'd get him on the way back, and that didn't happen. Damon took him.
Yeah, the draft is hard. Really, it's not easy to do. So.
No, it's not.
Well, I think it's gonna be good for the sport. I'm excited too, especially with the regional teams. Yeah, having cities involved with the regionalization of it. I think it's gonna be good. So, well, hey Jimmy, congratulations on the start to the season so far. We look forward to seeing you down in Corpus Christi.
I'll be there. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, see you later, Jimmy.
Oh,
there it is.
Hey, Mark will be proud. I'll make sure that I send him that clip.
All right.
All right, Jimmy. We'll see you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good guy. Do you like my idea? We need to do an old man podcast. I'm telling you.
Absolutely. I look like Santa Claus. I'm all in on this.
You're perfect. Yeah, you already got the costume.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm there. I'm ready.
Yep. No, I wanted to call it 50-50. I thought that'd be great. Like,
it's perfect.
Just
you actually still look like you're 40 years old, though.
It's already.
Got the full head of hair.
I showered. I shower on Tuesdays or Wednesdays whenever we do this. It's the one day I shower. If you had seen me an hour ago, you'd have seen my gray beard. All right, we gotta go. All right, I'll see you later.
All right, man.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.